For a little while now, in fact, since February, we've been talking about the slowdown in global growth momentum across the major four economies. And that's shown in the chart here. The pink line on the right-hand scale is a measure of G4 global growth momentum, and the blue line is annual growth rates in industrial production. So the push down through zero started in February and continued into July, and that has been a concern for us. One, signaling to us that the global IP cycle was at a turning point. In fact, that's typically been the case when G4 growth momentum is pushed down through zero. So that signal has been in place, as I just mentioned, since February. But last night we had probably some of the most positive news on the global growth momentum front that we've seen for a little while. One of the key drivers of the downturn in growth momentum has been Europe and Germany in particular. And you can see on the chart in front of us now that just looking at the PMI, the manufacturing PMI for Germany, in fact, and that's come off fairly sharply from very high levels, but has been coming down since late last year or early this year. So last night, the IFO released its latest business climate index, and if we have a look at that, we can see that there was a fairly sharp increase in that particular indicator. That's the red line there. It was driven very much by the improvement in the business expectations component, which we'll try to put on here. I'll get rid of the other one. So the IFO business expectations picked up after having fallen for most of the last 6 months. So that's a positive development in terms of the immediate outlook in Germany. Germany accounting for almost 30% of the euro area GDP and about 5% of global economic activity. So it is a significant component of the global outlook. So what was at the heart of this sudden improvement in the IFO Business Climate Index? So if we can go through, they do actually break it down on a sort of industry or sector basis. So if we look at, say, Manufacturing Business Climate Index, that's now the red line, showed a very mild improvement. Service Sector Business Climate Index increased quite sharply to almost its highest levels. We'll come back to that shortly. Trade, the red line coming in here, that didn't really improve, basically stabilized at these relative lower levels. And in fact, in the commentary accompanying the IFO, there was a suggestion that the easing in trade tensions with US and Europe did actually help. If we now look at, say, the wholesale sector, not much of an improvement there. Retailing, not much of an improvement there. Where we did see a big shift up, and it's been a long-term source of growth for Germany, has been pickup in the construction sector. So that pushed up to new highs once again. You can see at the chart, and indeed, if you look at the blue line, the IFO Business Climate Index, although it's had its cycles, it is at very high levels, and that's predominantly been driven by a very strong construction sector. Construction of in the residential sector, but also in buildings and structures components, which we'll have a look at shortly. So what's behind the improvement in the IFO Construction Business Climate Index? Well, we only really need to look at the two drivers of this has been general government spending or general government capex, building structures, roads and bridges. You can see here that's the red line. I'll just get that up again. That's in index level terms, so that's grown quite sharply over the last 3 years. In fact, if we do calculate an annualized 3-year growth rate, it's been growing at 6% per annum over the past 3 years. So this has been a very strong performance, partly reflecting strong immigration levels as well. So that's been a factor behind it, and related to that, I suppose, has been the dwelling sector. And if we look at capex in dwellings, just in index terms, you can see there that's risen very strongly since 2015-16 as well, and on an annualized 3-year growth rate of a little bit over 4% per annum for the last 3 years. So key drivers, obviously the stronger levels of immigration has been a factor behind the boom in the construction sector, probably a long overdue pickup in construction in Germany, complemented by quite a strong service sector. So the turn in the Business Climate Index for August is a welcome sign, particularly for Germany and Europe, but potentially a slightly more positive signal on our measure of global growth momentum. Thank you.